Watching Morning Live now. Most of the action is happening in KwaZulu-Natal this morning, where Palesa is doing a special broadcast. But there are activities taking place here in Gauteng in particular. Starting yesterday, Gauteng members of the Executive Council, or MECs, are presenting their 2017-2018 financial year budget votes at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, outlining the priorities for the current financial year in line with the government's program of transformation, modernisation and reindustrialisation, or TMR. Well, the MEC for Economic, Environmental, Agriculture and Rural Development presented both the economic and agricultural development budgets yesterday, with allocations being 1.4 billion rand and 916 million respectively. Now, one of the highlights was the announcement of that phase one of the land audit was complete, revealing the availability of land. Well, Lebogang MaileHe is with us. Thank you very much for joining us, MEC.
Morning, and thanks for having me.
So how big is your business card actually? Because you've got so many portfolios that you have to manage.
It is very big, but basically it's two departments. Okay. I'm just responsible for both. They both have their accounting officers and infrastructure. So if you ask me how do I cope, we've got sufficient infrastructure because it's separated
All right,
departments.
so Gauteng is the engine of South Africa's economy. South Africa is, depending on how the oil price is doing, number one or number two economy on the continent. And so you sit with a huge responsibility in your portfolio to make things happen, because if you're failing, then the country's not doing well. You started off with Charles Dickens in your budget speech. The best of times and the worst of times. A lot of people are thinking it's not the best of times. Give us hope. What is Gauteng going to do in this environment that we find ourselves in?
Indeed, it's not the best of times, and we all know why. The economy is shrinking. We've been downgraded. There's been concerns from different quarters around policy certainty, especially in certain areas and all that. Our approach is that we've got a plan, firstly, our economic development plan, which firstly aims to save jobs and secondly aims to create more jobs. We have been engaging with industries. We have been to different firms. We have engaged with academia. We are engaging with national government. We know that there are certain things like macroeconomic policy imperatives that will require national government to step in and play its part. And I'm happy so far, with the direction that we are taking and the interventions that the Minister of Finance, for instance, is leading. And in our space, we will seek to ensure that we work with industries, and we also deal with red tape issues. We intervene in trying to ease the cost of doing business, although some of these things are dependent on what happens nationally. For instance, the price of electricity, the scarcity of water and all that. But we are, like you said, an industrial heartland. We can't be complaining. We have to do something, and that is why we had to say, what do we do? Let's look at our own resources, and with the little that we have, let's invest them wisely and utilize them effectively.
Okay, so lean and mean and innovation is key. And partnerships, this seems to be a theme that was quite important to you.
What we call transformative partnerships. Because whatever partnerships we should have, it should not be just for the sake of it, PR exercise. When you look at, for instance, our program called SEPO 1 million, which is about, and I'm sure later on you're going to ask me about the issue of unemployment, especially youth unemployment. If you look at that program, it's a good example of these transformative partnerships, because we are saying we want to touch the lives of about 1 million young people by 2019. There's about 2.7 million that are sitting at home and not doing anything. 1 million, it's a minimum. We obviously want to do more. And if you look at how we've structured the program, it is not just dependent on our resources. We are putting resources, we are having programs as government, but the private sector is coming to the party. I mean, we have had big companies like Microsoft, Coca-Cola committing to providing jobs, committing to training young people. For instance, Microsoft will be training about 1 million young people just on basics using computer and all that. And I'm sure you will appreciate and understand the impact this will have on helping young people to network, to get information, and to also set up their businesses and all that. You look at Coca-Cola, they're looking at providing entrepreneurial opportunities to about 10,000 young people. Can go on and the list is endless. So if you can look at that kind of partnership, the partnership that is going to help us to deal and tackle the both socio and economic challenges that are facing our country.
So bottom line, we're in this together, and everybody has to put their shoulder to the wheel.
Certainly.
You've looked at manufacturing and services sectors as the areas that you're probably going to get the most success in. Why is that?
Well, you would appreciate that in the last few years our country has been deindustrializing for a number of reasons. I mean, factories have been closing. There's still challenges even in the steel industry, as you know. We've got a huge industrial infrastructure, especially in Ekurhuleni and other parts of our country. I mean, we are currently accounting for about 42% of the total industrial output in the country. And if we were to reach the full potential, we can go up to 60-70% and all that. There's a huge industrial infrastructure lying around here, but you know that our economy is we export raw materials, they come back as finished products and all that. So there's a huge potential. And manufacturing has also declined. I mean, over the last few years. I mean, at some point it was sitting at 22%. I think it's sitting at about 12% now. Jobs have been lost there and all that. So this is labor intensive. It will be able to absorb a lot of people, but it will also set us on a new trajectory as a country, where we are not just dependent on other economies to be able to produce the goods and the services that we require. And it will also help us to transform our economy, so that as we create these new opportunities, we must be able to consciously and deliberately ensure that there's a new entrance, and we don't leave things to chance like we've done previously. So that it must not just be about growing the economy, it must also be about transforming it, making sure that there's new players and new opportunities. But of significant, the overwhelming majority of our people must be integrated into the mainstream economy, and that's what we are interested in. We're not interested in Peter acquiring a stake in this company. We are told it's black empowered, but if you look at the management, you look at the procurement, you look at all other variables, Peter is the only one who's benefiting.
You know, MEC, I know this is something we probably need to spend a lot more time unpacking, and we're probably going to have to bring you back. We're going to have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for having me. The Gauteng MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development, Lebogang MaileHe, who presented his budget vote yesterday, and it was a difficult one, I guess, to put together, given the difficult and challenging times that we're in at the moment. But he set out a plan, and one of the highlights for the Gauteng attracted 66 billion rands worth of foreign direct investment flows in this period. And for more details on this budget, you can go to the Gauteng Provincial website. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave it for the time being. The world of sport is standing by with Vaylin Kirtley.